Folks, let me just tell you about our weekend show. We want to everything that I write, all the videos that I do, everything that I do, I want to make sure it's out there to make a difference so that people can execute. If you notice all the articles that I write, every single article that I write at the end of the article, and I tell you what, before I get busy with that, let me kind of explain our newsletter for those of you who don't quite know right off the top. I'm going to put that on the screen and tell you how to deal with the newsletter that I write every day. Sometimes I write several a day. This one had to do with Patrick Trump and Abbott. All the newsletters have a title and a sort of a description of what it's going to be about. And then we have the video narrative with a title at the top. That's what you're seeing where I'm pointing the arrows. As well, each of those videos have an associated Spotify podcast that is broadcast throughout iTunes and every one of your podcasting center, including with video. So we have the video that you can watch right here as well as the podcast. And we also put a summary of what this article is about. And that is what you'll find right under the video. And below that, what you find is what used to be premium content, which means only our paid subscribers would see the premium content. But I am first and foremost an activist. And the idea that the meat of the article, in other words, a place in the article, this particular part of the article, the long part of the written article, is where I have hyperlinks for justification of what I do, etc., comes below the summary. So let's say, as Joe said, I don't know about y'all, but I'm so overwhelmed. I am too often out of breath community help. So let me just say this. You can consume this one newsletter in any way you want, right? You can as little as you want or as much as you want. And I try to write it that way so that people who just want to hear a little piece or who want to just know a little bit about the subject can just read the summary. If you want to hear my narration of the actual subject, you can watch the video or you can listen to the podcast right on the top. But if you want a more in-depth analysis, you can go to the part that says premium content complimentary, and that's everything below. Like I said, that was the one that I had under the paid content, but as an activist, I just couldn't see not having the full access to what we are doing activism about to be there. And that's why I went ahead and put that there. But what I do ask is that those of you that see the value in what we're doing do become a paid subscriber, because again, it's the only way we can do all of this. And this is a 16-hour job every day for, doing all the content that we do. All right, let's get busy. I want to show all of you a TikTok video because as I did, when was it? Last night or a couple nights ago on Friday night. I went to the gym, right? I told you guys on that day that I was going to the gym. And when I came back home, I was so damn tired. So tired. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't write. I did a couple of videos and now it's time after I do the videos, I start to do the writing and I started to write the stuff. And, after I write the stuff, I pass it through ChatGPT to go ahead and tell me, do I have bad syntax or whatever? Kind of, you go through but I just couldn't do it right. I just couldn't, ChatGPT had a whole bunch of errors in it. So I had to go correct that. Sometimes it gets its syntax wrong. So I had to correct that. So I went to bed before midnight. Then I got up early that morning and I wrote an article and I titled the article, and I want to pull that article up because I'm going to start by reading pieces of that article if I can find the confounded article, which I'm pretty sure I will find in a minute. So I went ahead and I wrote the article titled, and I have it. I'm gonna have it on the screen in a minute. Right, there we go. Let me put it on the screen. I wrote the article, The Right Wing and MAGA Followers Kill Their Own and Us. And I mentioned in that article the TikToks that I watch. And I want to show you one of them to start with right away. You know, they started to say, it's too early. It's too early to be talking about all this stuff. No, it's not. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll follow up thereafter. Let's see if I have it ready to go. I think it is.
Yes, I absolutely will be bringing politics into a flood, because in September of 2021 at a Kerr County City Council meeting, at least 2 residents got up and spoke to the city council members and told them, while they were trying to decide the disposition of $10 million in federal funds that were given to them by the Biden administration so that they could expand the emergency alert system on the Guadalupe, they said that if they use these funds, that they would hold them personally responsible. One of those members, Sherry Snyder, here on TikTok, said that if they use those funds and she or her family were personally affected by them using those funds, that she would hold them personally responsible. And rather than use those funds to expand the emergency alert services in the area, they use those funds for city officials like the sheriff's department. So make no mistake about it, this flood is political, and it's Texas Republicans' fault. The fact that HEB gave disaster relief quicker than the federal government, be fucking for real. Yes.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you may take a look at that and wonder, well, wait a minute. Didn't they say that this was just a 100-year event and this was not preventable? Yeah, that's what they said. And could we have prevented the water from rising somewhere between 26 and 39 feet within that valley? No, we couldn't. But the one thing we could have made sure is that people had a way to get out of there with the advance warnings that they had, which they had. They had the advance warning. Now, the other video that I want to show you is a video about, well, the video will tell it all to you. Let's go ahead and just play the video, and then we'll take it on the other side. I think this is the one right here. Yeah, let's go.
We do not want more of Biden's mandates attached to keeping Biden's money.
Now, that is the kind of folks that prevented these commissioners from doing their job. And by the way, look, I want to put an errata on this in this regards. I know a lot of people that live in the New Brunsville area. I know a few people that live in the Kerrville area. These are good people, and they would have never gone to that commissioner's court and said, well, you know, I don't want to use that communist money or anything of that sort. They would never do that. But you see, there are some activists. It's like some of the folks here in Kingwood, our town, who would go to the school board and raise hell. I know a ton of people in Kingwood, my very conservative area, and none of them share the values of those folks who try to terrorize people at the school board and in other regions. These are loud folks who are not really caring about anything other than a false ideology, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But I want to talk about something called poetic justice, because there is a particular woman in the area, very loud MAGA type woman that talks about people and the government taking, people abusing the government and dependent on the government and how they should. Check this out, and then you'll see what I'm talking about.
This is crazy. I know we're not Kerr County. I know we're not Kerrville. I know we're not San Angelo or San Antonio. But hell, we're human beings.
Bye. Have the day you deserve. And I hope you lose your job and your income.
Saying we need help. Get me the media. Get me some official. Get me water. Get me anything we need, please. We have nothing.
Grandma, I wasn't going to step up on your video this morning.
You just couldn't help out.
But I'm going to have to do that. We're not going to help out anybody. Y'all been living on food stamps, eating Section 8 housing your entire freaking life. And you're not going to do it anymore. If you can work, you're an able-bodied person, go get a job.
We are a older community. A lot of our people don't have insurance. They don't have money. Kind of a forgotten community for Travis County. We're unincorporated. We are their unwanted stepchildren out here, unfortunately.
Hey, baby!
with alligator.
Alligator, Alcatraz. And what you gonna do, baby? I'm gonna tell you F.A. and F.O. Okay? You have the day you deserve.
But for God's sakes, Travis County, help us. Don't treat us like we're nothing out here, because we're not. We're human beings. We pay taxes out here.
Please educate yourself. Please stop talking and spewing hate. And just because you choose to walk around and put things in your body that the Bible says biblically should never happen is not my problem. And just because you look like an orange-haired troll doll is also not my issue.
Don't treat us like this.
I feel really bad for you. I'm sorry you're so misinformed and so uneducated. Have the day you deserve, because we, the people,
our greatest vote.
And we're here.
Now, that is what we're talking about. That is the instantiation of hate promoted by the right. And, there's a piece that I'm going to be doing tomorrow that illustrates in more detail how a lot of people got this way. Now, you may think that I look at that and I would have some level of hate for that woman, or that I would, have some sort of an animus towards this woman. And the truth of the matter is not the case. I actually feel very sorry for that woman, because let me read my article, because I think it is the part that I come down here is so important. I said in it, as I saw that, let me go below that. The second video, you guys saw all the video, so I'll say this. I honestly believe most people are good people. Even the vile people in the videos, I think deep inside have a suppressed sense of humanity. I've spoken to many of these people one-on-one. They are wired differently. They really, really are. I am not sure if it's by nature or nurture. And I can't, and let me tell you why I put that sentence in there. I'm not sure if it's by nature or nurture. I have relatives that have grown up in my community, in my household, that have moved over here to the United States and have gotten into that same sort of ideological device. And I think when I look at it, it has constantly been some sort of a relationship with a evangelical type church or some organization that follows the type of ideological framing that evangelical churches have always done. And so I think it is a formula that's used to be that some people are susceptible to. And I think that is where we're at. So I said they're wired differently. What I am not sure if it's by nature or nurture. What I do know is that the part of their brain that is always looking for danger and self-preservation is always on the lookout. And they frame all inputs through that filter. In other words, everything they hear, everything they feel goes through that filter of fear, that filter of self-preservation, even though we are no longer in that self-preservation modal we were in when we were, quote unquote, uncivilized animals, because that's what we were at some point in time. But that part of their brain is still triggered by that type of input. And the question is, like I continue, many would have us see these people as degenerates and deplorables. I have relatives, a very few, who could be identified as MAGA, but they are good to me and my family and would give me the clothes off of their backs and all the food in their pantry if I needed it. But they would still expound the right-wing MAGA rhetoric about others. They are not degenerates or deplorables. Their wiring was taken advantage of. So when one's wiring is taken advantage of, what do you do? What do you do? In medicine, there are technologies that use viruses able to penetrate certain defenses to deliver a healing payload. I mean, if you go into technology, medical technology now, they know that a particular virus can cross the brain barrier, but they know a particular medicine cannot. So what they do is they tie that medicine onto that virus and get that virus to penetrate the defenses, sort of like a Trojan horse, right? But guess what? The converse is also true. You can have what Fox News and OAN and Newsmax and the right-wing MAGA echo chamber were successful in doing is taking that virus, throwing that hate onto it as the payload, and sticking it across that brain barrier. That's what they've successfully done. Sticking that past that brain barrier. The evil entities must be held to account, but we can only hold them to account by winning big. We can only win big by investing the time and effort to deliver the healing payload. You know, a lot of my audience, and respectfully, sometimes they really get upset at me. And they get upset because they think many a times I bend too much to try my best to bring others into the fold. And, you know, I try to tell folks it's not it. For those of you who are progressives, those of you who are empathetic, those of you who know how to deal with people who, even if we have our own prejudices, we know how to have control of those prejudices. And even above and beyond those prejudices, we can function, we can be empathetic, and we can see humanity in others. A lot of us are that way. Sometimes I would be preaching to the choir. And if that's the case, what's the point, right? What is the point of only preaching to the choir? We need more than the choir. We need the choir, the orchestra, and the pew. And that's the goal of what I do, right? The goal is that we don't want to bend, or we don't want to get rid of our values. But if our values are really the best, which they are, I mean, categorically speaking, we'll give an example of what occurred in Kerr as that example. But our values are the best. To the Christian, our values fulfill the Bible. For the Muslims, our values fulfill the Quran. The Jews is just the Old Testament. So our values fulfill that of every religion when taken to the core. And that I'm not a religious person, but our values are, progressive values are the true values, the better values that support humanity. And, you know, I will not bend in telling that to my MAGA brothers and sisters, but I would tell them the things that I stand for. And you know what generally happens? When we don't mention the progressive or conservative or all that kind of stuff, you know what happens? Some of you that listen to me all the time have heard this story, but I see we have a lot of new people, so I'm going to repeat this story. Sitting down, before the pandemic, I wrote several of my books. I think I wrote one of them after the pandemic, or 1.5 after the pandemic, or something like that. And I would write my books in Starbucks. And people would come in there and they'll know me. People see my car there. They'll come and they'll talk to me. But there are some people that just come in and every day they're there. They see me sitting down in the corner with my laptop, my headset, and doing my thing. And this brave woman, and I call her brave because she don't know me from hell. She comes in and she says, I see you in here all of the times. What do you do? You know, and this, let me qualify this. This is a white woman. And she says, and I know she probably thinks, being where I live, I know she probably think I'm one of those black Republicans, you know. So she starts to talk, and I explain to her that I write books, I do other things. And I don't remember how we got onto the healthcare issue, but we started talking healthcare, and she was having some healthcare problems with her insurance companies and all of that. And I started to talk to her about things, you know, how I would love if the insurance company worked like this, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, she was in agreement, and she would even have some ideas, and her ideas would match my idea. And all the while I'm talking to this woman, I am feeling guilty as hell. And the reason why is I know how the conversation is going to end, because she will find out that I am probably the most liberal person, the most progressive person here in Kingwood, Texas. I'm very, very progressive, probably to the left of Bernie Sanders. And I believe in free enterprise. I am a true free enterprise believer. That's what I am. And I think a lot of folks think they are, But when it comes out to it, they still succumb to corporate power, which in reality is an autocracy. But getting back on subject, I eventually looked at her and I said, ma'am, what I just described to you and what the things that you want is actually something called Medicare for all. And she was in shock because she immediately supported that program that all these people out there are calling socialism and all the bad isms. But then it gets a little bit worse because I now have to tell her about myself. So I looked at her and I said, and ma'am, I just want to let you know that also I am very, very progressive. I don't remember if I used progressive or liberal. And she turned red like a cherry, looked me straight in the eye and said, but you are so nice. And I laughed and I said, ma'am, I don't know what you think or, why is it that you think this way? But let me just tell you something. There's a group in Kingwood called Liberal Women Who Lunch. You should go have lunch with them sometime and realize we don't have horns, and the things that we stand for are things that you want. And if you take a look at what it is that you and I spoke about on Medicare for all, and by the way, I wrote about that story in my book. And let me do a kind of a plug here. There are two books I think I should plug. One is Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. That one is, I think I told that particular story in there. But another one is It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relative Friends and Neighbors. By the way, folks who are subscribers to paid subscribers, those books you can read right here on Substack. So, it's a plug that I'm doing, trying to get more paid subscribers that we desperately need, to put it as nicely as I can. Unlike the stars that came from MSNBC and CBS and all of and CNN that are here, that immediately got, as soon as they got here with their $1 million parachutes, they got 10,000 paid subscribers. And those of us like Arturo Dominguez and the other great writers that are here doing other things, we really struggle and fight to try to get our subscriber base built solely from what we do and not from a notoriety or anything like that. But anyway, getting back on the subject. So it turned out that was a long conversation, but I know, look, she's going to go home to her very conservative husband, and more than likely she's either not going to tell him about the conversation but have a new insight, or she'll tell him about the conversation and he will find ways to make her question what we discussed that she agreed with. But either case, what we've done is we have softened, and I can guarantee you that we have softened her to be more accepting of our message. And not only that, assuming that she is more accepting, she will also, when she goes with her friends and out to dinner and they say certain things, she, better than myself or others, would actually be able to attenuate a lot of the sharp edges on those people who thought that the way they thought was the way to go. And you would be surprised. When you saw that woman in that video, who finally is asking for government, right, to come and help. Let me say one thing. Right then and there, she is not seeing the disparity between what she's seeing and what those people that she was cursing out on TikTok. That connection isn't made. What I am hoping enough of us are going to do is, now that she has that experience, to be able to make her connect her experience with the experience of the people that she attacked on TikTok. Because I can guarantee you, right there, as she is speaking with the pain that she's having right there, the last thing on her mind is the connection between that occurrence and the people that she argued with. But I tell you what, with the work that we do, the work that others do, the work of people who are seeing these things, the people who are willing to sit down and have a cup of coffee with her and ask her if she remembers when things get a little better for her, if she remembers the pain that she felt, if she remembers the needs that she had, and that others satisfied that need, including government, she can then start to build that association within her mind between that and the rest. I want to tell you something else, because this is important. Think about this. Think about the senators, all those Republican senators who were always anti-gay. They just couldn't see it. And there are a couple of them. One in particular, I think it's the one from Indiana. I don't recall. The person that he loved the most, his son, he found out his son was gay. And suddenly, after his son came out to him, and it meant something to him then that the policies that he had was actually hurting somebody, and he could understand that hurt, because anybody who has kids, and most people who have kids, have that special connection with kids. I'm not saying all, but most. And there's a certain hurt that you don't want to see your kid under any circumstances go through. Under any circumstances, you don't want to see your kid go through that. And at that point, you remember that what I spoke about, that virus that has the payload, that hurt that he felt for his kid was the virus that was able to pass that payload, and that payload being changing the policies. And it's a slow process. One of the problems I have with the Democratic Party and some progressives is the following. We are very intellectually thinking type folk, right? We can square everything perfectly in the aggregate, etc. And we expect that everybody else goes through the same thought process. Look, I will never be an artist. You're right. Ayn Rand didn't like socialism, like Medicare and Medicaid, until she needed it, and Social Security until she needed it. We can go further. Maria Teresa, the one that everybody idolizes, Maria Teresa, she believed in suffering. All those institutions that she built, she believed that the suffering of the poor was a penance. That's what she believed, and she made them suffer. Even as she, put them in institutions, etc. But when she got sick, she went into a good institution that gave her the necessary medicines, etc. It is always amazing that a lot of folks don't see that. But yeah, now it is important for us to understand that to make that change, right, we have to get that payload delivered. Hello, Joe. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hey, how are you?
I am doing fine.
Oh, there you are. Okay. I just had something to say about the woman that you were just speaking with at Starbucks. You gave her information, and you hopefully opened her mind to the process that comes after that. I wanted to share a personal experience. I know I've mentioned this once before, but not quite in this way. I went from real deep Republican Christian fundamentalist white person to getting, in the course of maybe a day and a half, real information. And I changed overnight. But this is the danger, because when you're a fundamentalist Republican, you have black and white thinking. So I went so progressive. I was grounded. And it was almost the same kind of fascism. And it took me just a little bit, a couple months to get grounded again. And I just thought that was interesting.
Look, let me just say that is important, right? And now notice that I always talk about this payload kind of a thing. And let me explain what I want. I don't know if I made that clear enough or not. But the woman that I spoke to in Starbucks, right? The reason we could connect on that issue is there was something that was actually affecting her. She was actually having problems with her insurance company, right?
Right.
So that was able to open that conversation, and it was amazing. Yeah, the conversation stayed open because she was also coming up with ideas, and it turns out that she's a smart woman. People are smart. She's a smart woman, and the ideas, right? And as she came up with her own ideas, it's going to be a smart idea, and it actually then matches what Medicare for All was all about, because it's a smart idea.
Right.
So I mean, people are smart if we
that black and white thinking structure when we help them.
Yes,
we just got to keep that in mind. But don't be afraid. Give them all the information.
I am with you. There's something I want to give you kudos on something, because it's important. Because let me just say that black and white thing when it comes to switching, going full one side. If I may tell a quick story. Before I was enlightened as a person who understand how stupid I was to have been anti-gay. I'm Panamanian. I'm Black, Latino, and Caribbean. That is like 3 strikes against gay stuff, because there are those ethnicities, the 3 that I share, are very anti-gay. Latino, Black, Caribbean are very anti-gay. Now, when I made my trip to China, I was with my partner, and we are heading to China, and I'm talking bad against gay this, gay that. And he said, he asked a particular question, and he forced me to use my logic. As an engineer, that's all I'm supposed to do. And I did. And like I said, I left Houston, Texas, anti-gay. I got into Tokyo, Japan. That was the first flight before China. I got into Tokyo, Japan, a gay activist. That's the switch that I made in that long flight. So you're right about that. When there's a black and white thinking, but the thing about it is, but I kept the logical thinking. But thank you so kindly for calling in, Joe, and thank you for listening to the show. We're going to have a good one tomorrow morning as well.
Thank you, everyone listening. Okay.
Absolutely. Bye, sis. All right. Anybody else want to call? Let me just give you the telephone number is 281-823-7747. 281-823-7747. So again, brothers and sisters. So my philosophy is we have to win big in order to correct the big mistake. Not only that the big, beautiful bill is, but to correct the mistakes that we have to do to clean up all the messes that we've created thus far. And that's not just a big, bad bill, right? Even some of the stuff we did under the Biden administration, some of the policies with regards to green energy, with regards to decarbonization, all these things are big policies that were compromised, that the only way we get to it is not by 50+1, but we are talking about having to make sure that 70-80% of us are on the same wavelength. And to do that, it's not going to come from the mainstream media. I'm going to talk some of that of the mainstream media when we on the show tomorrow, either tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. But it's not going to come from the mainstream media. If you watch the morning news today, I'm going to just give you a quick synopsis of some of the things, something I'm going to cover. I don't know if I'm doing it in tomorrow morning or the afternoon. And by the way, for those of you who need to know, my show is at 6 a.m. Central. I simulcast it here on Substack as well. It's on KPFT 90.1 FM Houston. That's simulcast on YouTube and here on Substack and Facebook Live. And then at 3 o'clock Central and simulcast again on Substack and the others. So I'm not sure where I'm going to carry this one, but I just want to say that today on one of the morning shows, you know how bad the mainstream media is as follows. When a Republican had to correct a purported unbiased host to say, no, you can't blame Donald Trump's protege. You have to blame Donald Trump. I don't know how many people got it, but I was in shock. I was like, no, I can't believe it's a Republican politician have to come out and say it. Hello, B. How you doing, my dear?
Hey, Egberto. How are you?
I am doing fine. Great to talk to you. Talk to me.
I wanted to share that, we have to give ourselves permission to be open-minded enough to sometimes listen to more than one source of information, to listen to more than one side of a story, because it is only then that we can truly develop empathy and we can have the opportunity to see things from a different perspective. It does not make us bad. It does not make us duped. It doesn't make us stupid. I think it makes us intelligent and empathetic. We have to view our neighbor as everyone, because for all of those Christian nationalists, that is what the good book says. Who is my neighbor? Everyone is my neighbor. We have an obligation to care and to be sensitive, but we invoke the name of Jesus, but we so seldom live the simple thing that Jesus asked us to do. Love one another as I have loved you. That's a hard thing to do.
B, I could not agree with you more. If you, people who listen to the show frequently always hear me speak about my brother, my sister, my MAGA brother, my MAGA sister, and sometimes it upsets some. So in fact, sometimes it upset our MAGA folks. Says, I'm not your brother, and I'm like, I will always be my brothers and sisters' keeper. All right, and I think the message that you just gave there is so damn important because, like I said earlier on, I don't know how long you've been on, but like I said earlier, we need everybody. Oh, well, great. Thank you for being here. We need everybody.
Yeah.
We need everybody. And what gives me the ability, I think, as well is when you have close relatives, very close relatives that forget about the programming and all of that are actually empathetic towards you and the people they know, and you cannot sit down and wonder what the hell is wrong. Otherwise, that is why you have to keep that line of communication open again, so that you are ready to deliver the dosage of goodness on that virus when the time comes, when it's there and ready to open.
Yes. Because people will not hear a message until they're ready to hear it. And sometimes you have to repeat it several times. But then you have to show, not with your tongue, but with your actions.
Amen. Yes.
If you are loving, if you are accepting, you have to show that.
You are so right about that. And that I think is the message. And at first, and to all the listeners out here, it's not easy. No one is going to say it is easy. When I'm going on my program, I have this stuff called Coffee with Egberto. And half of the people who it was at the KPFT station for, people who gave a certain amount, they got a coffee with Egberto, and I'll go meet them in any part of Houston and we go for coffee. And half of them that took up the offer were MAGA. And it was so interesting. And they would come and they'll tell you, did I convince them of everything? No. But they finally looked at, and this may sound funny, but they finally looked at me as a human being. Before that, I was a caricature. But they sat down. We spoke about my kid, spoke about their kid. One of them, I never forgot, one of them looked at me and told me, I used to tell my kid not to listen to you. He would listen, but he didn't want the kid listening to me because, what we talk about. And that was gone. I don't believe all that you're saying, but, so I mean, it's that communication that's there. And it's not giving up your values, B. It's not about giving up your values. It's about keeping the lines of communication open.
It is so very, very important. And to remember that there really is only one human race.
Right.
There are degrees of melanin that we each have, but there is only one human race.
Yeah.
But we are taught to be at odds with each other. One, because of the color of our skin, and two, because of what we have materially. And we become blind to the fact that those who have so much are literally laughing as they keep us fighting with each other for crumbs.
Wow. Let me just say that is so powerful. And let me tell you, I have a section or an article that I wrote that it's about the necessity of hate for our current economic system to function. We have to be at each other's throats for our current economic system to function, where it continuously exploit everybody to transfer a few to the rest. I'm going to search that up and I'm going to reprise that article because you opened the door for that. But anything else, B, before we move on?
No, that is, I enjoy listening to your program. I am so grateful for the day I kind of found your Substack, and I signed up. I am a paying member, and
Thank you.
I thoroughly enjoy being a part of your community.
Look, I appreciate that. And let me tell you, one of the reasons, yesterday I posted a little thing somebody wrote for me on Blue Sky, and it really touches me to know that whenever I make a contact, and whenever if somebody tells me I hear you, for somebody doing what I do, what we do, you'd not imagine how much fuel that gives us to keep doing this kind of stuff. So thank you so kindly.
Well, brother, keep the pedal to the metal, because your message is important.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, B.
Putting it out there, however I can. You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, folks, we are at 5 minutes till the end of the program. Like I said, last week I opened it up to everybody by mistake. Today I opened it up to everybody by choice because of the subject I wanted to cover. I don't think the mainstream media is covering the river, the flood in the Guadalupe River, assigning blame as it needs to be assigned. I just also got through writing another article that I want to get to. Let me see if I can get to that article real quick, because that article too, let me see if I can get to that article. When I go live, ouch, I think I got it shut now. And this is the article that I want to put out there. It's why must we blame Trump? Let me put it on the screen. And I want you guys to read this and share this. It is so very important. Let me go ahead and para ver cómo lo puedo conseguir ahora mismo. There we go. I think that's it right there. Share this, read this article if you haven't, and share it. I spent a lot of time this morning putting this one together. It is important because, and like I said, remember how I told you read our articles, right? There are many different ways in which you can read a piece of it or all of it, or listen to the video or listen to the podcast. It's all encompassing. But anyway, so read that article. I don't think the mainstream media is covering the story appropriately. And when you cover the story the way they're covering it, what happens is that all of this repeats itself. It's the same way they cover the gun story, right? The reason we don't get anything done with guns is that we allow silly comments to take traction. Guns don't kill people. People kills people. It's not the gun, it's the people. But then if we had a media that said in every country in the world that has good gun regulations, no country comes close, not even countries that have terrorism come close to the killing that occurs in our country because of the free guns all over the place. I mean, I sit down and watch those ICE officers terrorize people without police bans or whatever. I'm waiting to see when somebody is going, because we're open carry state in Texas. Notice that ICE wasn't around in Texas a whole lot, right? And I think they're not around in Texas a lot because as an open carry state, somebody's going to get hurt. But the media allows all these false messages. Why we still get floods? Well, why do we still have gun issues? We have to start telling Americans the truth. And until we do, we won't stop. So anyway, folks, it's about an hour, going on an hour. I want to thank all of you for coming to the program today. Love you all. Please, those of you who have the wherewithal to do so, please become paid subscribers. We try to give most everything away because, again, we're activists first and foremost. I'm an activist. So everything that I write, I want it out there and I want everybody to see it. But in order to survive also, I need to have I need to have paid subscribers. So if you have the ability to become a paid subscriber, it's the amount that you won't even miss in your budget, and you allow many of us to continue doing what we do, the work that I do, and many other substackers that don't have golden parachutes, of course, from after they've left the mainstream media. So please support us however you can, and remember that we have a show 5 days a week, 2 shows, 6 in the morning Central Time and 3 in the afternoon Central Time. And we make sure to cover as much as we can, not just the narrative given by the mainstream media, but the proper narrative that actually gets something done. So without further ado, I want to thank you all. Thank you so kindly for being a part of our PDR posse, the Politics Done Right posse. Thank you for staying here with Egberto Off the Records newsletter. And please, again, if you have the wherewithal to become a paid subscriber, please sign up. We'll have a whole lot of things. Yes, I'm on KPFT as well. Yes, I am. But please go ahead and sign up to my Substack, become a paid subscriber, and we can do a lot together. My name is Egberto Willies, and you know what I say? I am what? I'm out. Thank you so kindly.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.